We've been married for 19 years, 2 kids, 14 and 16. The first time I crossed a line was a few years ago. I reconnected with my ex from my early 20s. Nothing wild at first. Likes, comments, DMs, the usual. Then it turned into regular texting, sometimes until midnight. He made me feel remembered, like the version of me before the mortgage and the PTA meetings and all of that. I never slept with him, but emotionally I know I was somewhere else. My husband found the messages, he was gutted. We went through therapy, he gave me a second chance. I promised to refocus, and for a while I meant it. Then work picked up. I got a role that involved travel. It wasn't constant, but maybe once or twice every few months I'd be gone for a few days, sometimes more. I loved it. Nice hotels, catered events, time to myself. There's something about being in a new city where no one knows you that makes you feel like someone else. The first physical line I crossed was in Chicago. I was staying at a boutique hotel downtown, and the concierge, mid-30s, funny, flirty in that light way, started recognizing me. We chatted more each day. On the third night, after some drinks at the bar, I kissed him. Then we went upstairs. It was one night. I didn't give him my number. I didn't think of it as a big deal at the time. I told myself it was a blip, but I didn't stop. The next one was 6 months later, a sales conference in Dallas. I met a guy. He was working a partner booth, divorced, no kids. We had dinner the second night. Then we ended up in his room. That one wasn't just one night. We met again during another work trip to Phoenix, and then again in Atlanta. By then we were texting regularly, planning our travel dates to match. It was a full-blown affair. He's fit, attractive, knows what he's doing. I don't know how else to say it. He has stamina, confidence, knows how to make me feel like I'm the center of attention. The sex was exciting, better than what I've had in years. That part is just true. I didn't have to initiate, I didn't have to ask twice. He'd undress me, pull me to the edge of the bed, do things that made me forget I had a family waiting at home, and I liked it. We never talked about real life. It was always in hotel rooms, always in cities where I didn't live. I'd come home and reset, smile at the kids, unload the dishwasher, sit next to my husband on the couch. I kept the two lives separate, or so I thought. This past Christmas, everything blew up again. We were staying at my in-laws' house. I'd left my phone on the nightstand in our room while I went to help with breakfast. My husband came up to grab something and saw the screen light up. My AP had texted. Something stupid like, "Still dreaming of last time." He opened the message thread. He saw everything. When I came back upstairs, he was sitting on the bed holding my phone. He didn't even say anything at first, just handed it to me. I scrolled. There were photos, messages, times, and dates. There was one where I said I missed the way he took charge. One where he said I was insatiable, and I replied, "You bring that out of me?" I couldn't even lie. My husband said, "So this is happening again." I told him I didn't love the guy, that it wasn't romantic, that it didn't mean anything. He asked how long it had been going on. I said over a year. He asked if it was the only one. I said no, that there'd been others before. "Just 2, I said. We still had to stay at his parents' house for the rest of the trip. I told him I wanted to go home, but he didn't want his parents to know something was wrong. He had this thing when my first affair was discovered too, where he didn't want anyone else to know. He considered my affair his failure. Somehow he didn't want anyone thinking he was a failure. So we played happy family this time too. It was uncomfortable. We barely spoke. I tried to ask if we could talk when we got back home, and he said he needed space. He said we'd deal with it later. That was the last real thing he said to me that whole trip. Now we're back, and I can feel things slipping. He barely looks at me. He stopped wearing his ring, and I don't know what to do next. I miss the life we had, or at least the feeling of it. I've hurt someone who gave me a second chance before. I want to say I'm sorry, but it feels like the words don't land anymore. I miss the feeling I had when I was with the other man, but I also miss my life. I miss my kids not avoiding eye contact. I miss my husband's hand on my back when we walked into a room. I don't know what happens next, but I can feel that things are slipping. Final update, 6 weeks later. It's unraveling now, so this is probably the last thing I'll write here. I wanted to at least follow through. Things didn't get better, they got more final. About 2 weeks after we got back from the in-laws, my husband told me he had spoken to a lawyer. He said he didn't want to do therapy this time, that he couldn't. He said the first time, it broke something, and this time I lit what was left on fire. Then he told me I had a week to figure out where I was going. He said he wasn't going to uproot the kids, that they were staying in the house, that I could either go stay with a friend or rent something. He wasn't going to drag this out with both of us under the same roof. I moved into a short-term rental last week. I packed 2 suitcases and a few boxes of essentials. It's a furnished apartment near downtown. The lease is month to month. It's small and quiet and smells like cleaning products. I'm alone most nights. Some nights I have someone over. Before anyone asks, yes, men. My marriage is over, so it's not like I'm breaking my vows. There are consequences I didn't think about. I had to sit down and tell my kids that their father and I are separating. I told them it was complicated, but they're not dumb. My daughter has barely looked me in the eye since. My son asked if it was because of the man who messaged me at Christmas. I asked how he knew, and he said Dad told him. I had to leave the room after that, not because I was upset with them, but I was angry. He didn't have to do me dirty like that. I'm still the mother of his children. Why would he degrade me like that to our own children? I told my boss. I said I was going through a divorce and might need to adjust my travel schedule for a while. She didn't say much, but I can feel something change. One of my coworkers made a comment the other day about being careful what you do in other cities. I don't even know who knows what at this point. I talked to the other man. He messaged me about a week after the split, asked if I was free to meet up in Vegas next month. I told him things had ended with my husband. He said, that sucks, and then sent a dick pic. That's when it hit me. He was never in this. He was just there for the version of me that didn't come with responsibilities. I haven't responded since. I don't plan to. So what do I have now? I'm in a temporary apartment. My kids barely speak to me. My husband is going through the legal stuff with a lawyer and asked me to direct everything through email from now on. I keep checking my phone even though I don't know what I'm hoping to see. An apology, a reset button. I think the worst consequence is realizing that I don't get to rewrite this, that no amount of explanations or journaling or reflections makes this go away. He's gone. The marriage is over, and I'm not sure when or if I'll be someone they trust again. Some days I wonder if I ever really wanted the marriage back, or if I just didn't want to lose the version of myself that existed inside it. The woman who had a family, who had the house and the dinners and the holidays, who looked like she had it all figured out. Now I'm someone else, and I don't get to choose how people see me anymore. My kids will grow up knowing what I did. My husband will go find peace somewhere else, and I'll have to sit with the fact that I broke something that might have lasted just because I wanted to feel something different. If you're where I was a few years ago, if you're hiding messages or justifying a small flirtation or booking a trip thinking it won't go too far, stop or don't. But know that the cost keeps stacking up, and eventually you will have to pay it. That's where I am now, paying for it.